doing, brochachos? Jer Troiano here to present to you today on the first day of free agency my plan to save the New York Mets in the 2026 off season. This is going to be a very emotional plan for a lot of people because there's going to be some hard decisions that have to be made about a couple of key players that have been part of our culture for many years. But as 2026 begins, there needs to be drastic changes and drastic improvement to this team as we failed in a very bad way last season. So let's just go right into it right away at probably the easiest position to talk about, catcher. Now, there's going to be some people out there that would want to make a splash for a JT Realmuto type. But there's too much money that needs to be invested in other places. Plus, at this point in his career, what is JT Realmuto even bringing to the table? So we bring it back our two catchers from last year. Francisco Alvarez is going to be projected to make about the league minimum of $820K this season. And Luis Torrens, who will make $2.9 million. Luis Torrens is a Gold Glove caliber backup catcher. You're not going to get better really defensively from that position. And Francisco Alvarez, in my opinion, still has an Ivan Rodriguez type ceiling. I know that is very, very high praise, but he's still very young into his career. That was his original projection. He has had the worst set of fluke injuries that any player can possibly have. And he still could be a net positive defensively himself. So all in all, you're going to be invested $3-4 million in this position. I think you have two solid, good players here. I think don't try to change something that I think is already pretty well set. You have some other depth in the organization that you could try to keep to be your third catcher. I think we stick with this and we move on to where the controversy is going to begin. Because at first base, we have to say goodbye to Pete Alonso. I know it's going to be hard to replace his offensive production, but we're at a point where we need a culture shift and we need to get better defensively and have more defensive flexibility. And I know a lot of people are saying we have to give him whatever he wants. He's the all-time home run leader. We have to have one player play with the Mets for his entire career. But we can't be short-sighted. He has already regressed to the point defensively where he is hurting the team on a daily basis every time he's out there. And you got to think that at some point, you can't just, and people's answer to that is, oh, we're just going to put him at DH. But the way the DH position has evolved is you can't just plug in someone at DH. That needs to be a flexibility. Oh, I'm going to give this guy off and play this guy at DH this day. You're going to have as many starting caliber offensive players either, but you're also going to have a super utility type to kind of plug into those positions when those guys get their day off and play DH. So just plugging Alonso in as a DH is not going to work. We need to have more run prevention at first base. And just think about the Mets' history. When they have been their best, they have had first basemen like John Overwood and Keith Hernandez, who were still very solid, net positives offensively, but they were not killing the team on defense. They were improving the team. They were making things better for middle infielders and the third baseman because they were saving them plays. They were not throwing the ball and injuring our pitchers because they didn't know how to play the position properly. Now, losing Alonso's offensive production is going to be hard, but I don't think there's a better option out there this offseason than Cody Bellinger. Cody Bellinger still is not a 40 home run hitter like Pete Alonso, but he could be a 30 home run hitter in the right lineup. He could have 90 to 100 RBIs. That's what he did last year. Now, last year, he was with our friends, the Yankees, and he was playing all three outfield positions and sometimes first base. And he was a productive defensive player at every single position. And Cody Bellinger is an example of the kind of guy where the future of this game is going. You could play Cody Bellinger 100 games at first base. You could play him 10 games at each of the outfield positions. And then you could DH him some so he gets some rest. And he will give you maybe not quite Gold Glove caliber defense, although he has won a Gold Glove before in the outfield, but he will give you above to good defense in all four positions. And he's not probably going to command quite as much on an annual basis as Pete Alonso. Now, he might get more years, and we're going to have competition from teams like the Yankees, but the Mets need to stand firm. This needs to be the first guy they go after. Because not only that, all right, they have Carson Bench coming. The goal is for Carson Bench to be their eventual center fielder. Now, there are guys you could plug in until that moment, but say those guys aren't working out. You could play Cody Bellinger at center field and shift someone else to first base until that time comes, which I project Carson Bench to be up by early June, late May. So now who's going to play first base when Bellinger's playing these other positions? I think that guy is Brett Baty. Brett Baty has already proved last season that he has moved his defense to above average at second base and third base. I don't see any flaw in him being able to get a first baseman's mitt and play above average defense at first base. And he could be kind of your super infield utility guy. You can get Brett Baty 400, maybe 350 at bats between first, second, third, filling in all those places, DHing some. He had about a 2 WAR last year offensively as he started to pick it up in the second half of the year. And this is the kind of guy that you're going to build around too. Mets are going to have to build a combination of these veterans like Cody Bellinger, and you'll see some other guys I'm going to talk about in the next couple of minutes, and young players like Baty, Acuna, Carson Bench, Jet Williams, who we're going to talk about as we go on to, and find the correct balance. So first base, the idea is Cody Bellinger. As he plays the outfield some, Brett Baty will play first base on those days. So move over to second base right now. Second base, May, June. The idea is, unless there is some kind of drastic trade involving this player, Jet Williams. Jet Williams is going to be a key name talked about in any trade. The only trade that we should realistically trade him for is if we're going for Tarek Skubal. I would be hesitant to even do him in that trade, but because Tarek Skubal is going to be a free agent at the end of the season. So I'm one of the people, you'll see my plan. I am not going all in for Skubal right now. I would address him at the trade deadline, and I'm going to be somewhat conservative with other money, so we'll be able to go all in for him in the off season. But Jet Williams, come May, come June, he's kind of like a better version of Luis Angel Acuna, who's going to be my guy for opening day. Jet Williams could be your second baseman. He could be your shortstop. He could play the outfield some. He's kind of above average in all those rules. He has above average speed, and we'll see the way his bat projects. His bat projects, I don't want to say a poor man's Dustin Pedroia, but that could be somewhat the kind of hitter he is. Hit the ball all over the place, maybe for some power, not a super amount of power. And then we go to your opening day second baseman, Luis Angel Acuna. Mets were better when he was playing every single day last year before Jeff McNeil came back. And Mets struggled as they sent him down so he could play every single day, and he lost some of the flexibility he could bring. He could play good defense up the middle. He could be a late inning replacement for speed and defense. And he hasn't gotten a proper opportunity to show that he can hit the ball. In the little time he has had, he has not hit the ball a ton. But let's give him this opportunity until we're calling up Jet Williams to see what he can do. So Luisangel Acuna until Jet Williams. Once Jet Williams comes up, we'll see how Luisangel Acuna is doing. I would like to keep him in a super utility role, kind of like your backup second short and center fielder. And that's kind of the idea would be going forward. Let's not invest any money in this position. Let's move some guys that kind of are taking some of these at-bats already, like Jeff McNeil. We'll address him in a few minutes. And let's just use this as a position where it's going to be players from within making the league minimum so we can spend our money elsewhere. So we're going to go to shortstop now. And here is my first major trade, because we're going to need to shake things up. We're going to need to bring in some winners. And I love Francisco Lindor, but sometimes you have to make a trade just to change things up. So I am proposing the trade Francisco Lindor, David Peterson, Mark Vientos, and prospect Jack Wenninger to the Rangers for Corey Seager and Jack Leiter. And we'll talk about Jack Leiter more. We'll focus on Corey Seager right now. Corey Seager, two-time World Series MVP. He is above average offensively in every aspect of the game. He's a strong culture guy, and he's a winner. And sometimes you need to make a change to make a change. They're probably similar type players. Lindor is probably better speed and better defensively, and I would say Corey Seager is slightly better offensively. The difference in salary is going to be about $3 million that we'll end up saving. And the idea is we're going to get Corey Seager here, and he's going to be a guy that teaches some of these young guys how to win. I think that's like one of the underrated things that we need to do. Like, we need to build a culture of winners, kind of similar to what they did in the 80s when they brought in guys like Keith Hernandez and Ray Knight and Gary Carter. You just need to bring in established veterans to be the leaders for these guys. And what better guy to show your young players how to win than a two-time World Series MVP? In this trade, we're getting rid of David Peterson, which is going to save some money there too, as we bring in other guys to fill the starting pitcher role for the team. We're going to give the Rangers some offensive pop and a guy that could play first, third, or DH for the Rangers. And we're going to give them a guy that's a little bit behind the Mets' current top crop of pitching prospects, but he's kind of the next guy probably moving up is Jack Wenninger. So we're not trading any of the immediate guys like Sproat or Tong in this trade, but Jack Wenninger probably will be on their level as we go into the future. And we'll see we're getting Jack Leiter back in the trade too. So we get to third base now. And since I already talked about making Brett Baty that super utility role to play first, second, and third, we're going to need to bring someone in to play third base. And here we are bringing Brett in, another guy that could be a leader of men, World Series winner, still plays above average defense, still hits the ball all over the field. If he needed to, he can move around the infield too. And this is a guy that's going to hit a solid 270 to 290, hit you 18 to 25 home runs, hit you 80 RBIs, and just be another leader for this team that's going to be a professional and show these guys how to play baseball. And we're going to keep Ronnie Mauricio around because we really don't know what Ronnie Mauricio is yet. Now, if the right trade comes around and Ronnie Mauricio needs to be the third or fourth player in that trade, sure, I'd be open to that. But right now, he's a guy, he can play multiple positions, second, short, third. I would get him some experience in the corner outfield positions too. That could be another utility type guy that could get some at-bats all over the place for this team, and we'll find out what he is offensively. But unless season needs to be in a trade, I would not give up on a guy like Mauricio yet. Let's get him on the roster and just find a way to get more at-bats for him. Right field, no question, Juan Soto, MVP caliber player. Obviously, this is what we have invested in him next season, $62 million, 26 salary. Top outfielder, nothing else to say here. Center field, I thought about bringing someone else in to start the season and non-tendering Tyrone Taylor, but realistically in the center field market, you're not going to find a better Band-Aid out there than Tyrone Taylor. And Tyrone Taylor can play Gold Glove caliber defense until you're ready to call up Carson Benj. Hopefully he can hit the ball a little bit more, but you're not going to find anything else out there. So you're going to need everyone else to pick it up offensively to make up for Taylor's limitations. But here's another guy that if you look at like Acuna, yeah, there was frustrating moments offensively, but if you look at it, they were much better when he was in the lineup than he wasn't in the lineup. So we'll start this season with Tyrone Taylor. Hopefully Carson Benj ready to be called up in June. Then we'll kind of readdress where where Tyrone Taylor fits on this roster. Left field, I really flirted with trading Brandon Nimmo to a team like the Rockies. I'll show when I get to later on where I still made that trade with the Rockies. I used Jeff McNeil in that trade instead. I do think with Brandon Nimmo having a full no trade clause, Colorado is a team that perhaps he would waive it to. I think that's something you could look at for the future. I mean, Brandon Nimmo's contract is going to age poorly. He still has 5 years with $20.5 million per year. That's going to take him to his like 37, 38 age season. The metrics show that he played slightly above average outfield last season. So hopefully he can, thank you, Kat, can continue to do that this offseason, this next season. And maybe the Mets can readdress where he is in the lineup. I think that's where some of the frustrations could have came last season. They had him hitting more in the middle of the lineup rather than the front of the lineup because you had Soto and Lindor at the top of the lineup. So suddenly Nimmo's strategy becomes a little bit more different at the plate. Instead of being patient, the 400 on base guy that we're used to, he hit low threes, but he hit for more power. Maybe if we get some more guys that there are more expectations for them to be the guys that bring the power in the lineup, Nimmo could re-strategize and go back to the kind of offensive player that he was before. Not that he had a bad season last year. He was still in the mid-sevens as far as OPS goes, but maybe the Mets would be better off for him being not as much power, but being like a higher 800 OPS guy or having a closer to a 370 OPS because he's getting more walks, he's getting more singles rather than he's cutting down the strikeouts again compared to what he was last offseason. So let's take a look at what the bench is. We already talked about Torrens as the backup catcher, Brett Baty as the super infield utility, Ronnie Mauricio as another utility player. I only have one backup outfielder here, only because Bellinger, in a sense, also is that outfielder where if, let's just say, Juan Soto needs to play DH, guess what? Cody Bellinger is playing right field that day. So we have Starling Marte. I think we're making so much drastic changes to this team. We need one big veteran presence to come back. And Starling Marte showed that he could still hit the ball last season. If you listen to what Juan Soto said, Starling Marte clearly had a tremendous amount of an effect on him from a leadership perspective. So I think we bring Starling Marte back. He'll play a lot of DH. Maybe he could play a little left field. We bring him back on a 1-year, $8 million contract. He could be kind of a holdover for leadership until some of these other guys take that role over. And I think he'll still have a fairly good impact on this team. So now let's go to the pitching. So starting pitcher one, this is going to be their big offseason acquisition as from a starting pitcher perspective. And we're going to go with Dylan Cease at 6 years, $150 million. Hopefully he won't cost that much. There are other guys in the market that will hopefully be the primary guys in the market that will drive the price on Dylan Cease down a little bit. But I think the guy pitches a lot of innings. He strikes out a lot of people. He had a down year last year, but he's proven it for a long period of time. And he's just a guy that I think could lead by example, and you see what he could do. And he'll show these guys that we have talking about how to take the ball when it's your day and just do your job in a very professional way. And then hopefully he bounces back and is closer to what he was prior to last season. So we're going to go to our 2 through 5 now. Noah McLean, he probably is the true ace, but we're going to hold off before we officially put him into that role. We saw what he did last season. He has ace potential. We're starting pitcher 3, Jack Leiter. He has not lived up to his expectations yet. He had a solid year last year. He still has not been quite what he was projected to be. But we're bringing the kid of a Mets legend here who still really has limitless potential. Brandon Sproat, have him in the rotation opening day. Emmett Sheehan, this is another minor trade I have. Doing a swap with the Dodgers, getting rid of Cody Senga's salary. Senga has a relationship with Yamamoto. Emmett Sheehan has yet to firmly establish himself in that rotation. He's been kind of a swing guy. Didn't grow up in New York, but he's a native Staten Islander. He has nasty stuff. We're going to bring him in, hopefully, and he'll be our 5th starter. And then hopefully he's another guy that could go either way. He has limitless type potential, or maybe he flames out and is a bullpen guy, or maybe he doesn't stay at all. We'll wait and see. But I think now in today's baseball, you need to plan for having a 7-man rotation, essentially. So we're still keeping, which we're not going to get rid of. Well, we're definitely not going to be able to get rid of Manaea. But we're going to have Clay Holmes and Sean Manaea as your 6th and 7th starters. And essentially, when they get skipped in the rotation, whether it's to keep innings down or it's just to skip them, they're going to be in the bullpen. And I think they could both be pretty high leverage relievers. That might even be what's best for Manaea at this point. And Clay Holmes is a former closer. If you're going to skip him one time around, I don't see why you can't put him in the 7th or the 8th inning on a week where he's not gonna start. And we'll see. Clay Holmes, $13 million next year. I like this role for him as a 6th starter / high leverage reliever. And Manaea, he's here. He's making $25 million. We'll see how he does in this role. His contract expires after the season. We'll see how it all works out. We'll go to the main bullpen now. We'll take a flyer on Edwin Diaz's brother, Alexis Diaz. He's been okay in the past. I don't think he's going to command more than a 1-year deal. Victor Vodvik is my trade with McNeil to the Rockies. Pitched pretty well for the Rockies last year. We'll see what he does here. Relievers are fickle. I don't know. We're mainly just getting rid of McNeil's salary, and hopefully Vodvik works out. We got Brooks Valley back on a 4.7-year deal. He opted in. Very good lefty reliever. We got AJ Minter back also. Hopefully he stays healthy this season. Another lefty reliever. It looks like I forgot to put Tyler Rogers on this, but also we're going to bring Tyler Rogers back on a 2-year, $18 million deal, $9 million annually. And then Minter and Rogers are kind of the 7th inning guys, and you got Raleigh and Vodvik as the 6th inning guys. We'll see what happens with Diaz. He could pitch in these other type of situations. But now for our primary setup man, we're going to sign Devin Williams, 4 years, $60 million. Devin Williams, elite closer in the past, did not work out well in that role for the Yankees this year. Pitched well again when he was thrust back into the set when he was put back into a setup man role. So we'll see how everything works out. Maybe he would be more willing to do a 1 year, $18 million thing so he could reestablish his market and try to be a closer again. I would do that too. But I would have a conversation with him and be like, Devin, we want to make you and Diaz the best 1-2 punch in the game as far as bullpen goes. We're going to pay you $15 million a year for 4 years, and we'll see what he says to that. And then finally, closer, Edwin Diaz. There's no one else in the market that comes close to him. It's kind of crazy the way things worked out. When that trade first happened all these years ago, I went crazy about it. I mean, mainly because we were absorbing Robinson Cano's terrible contract. And I thought Kelenic had better value than being traded for a terrible contract and a closer at the time. And clearly I was wrong. I mean, I still think Kelenic could have got who knows what in a trade. So my still have issues with that part of it. But clearly Edwin Diaz has proven his worth, and he is the best closer in the game. There's really not a close second. So we got to bring him back at whatever the cost. It sounds like he wants to come back. So let's just pay the man the right way. $20 million per for 6 years. I don't think anyone else would match that. And we get our closer back. So looking at it right now, we end up looking at catchers, Francisco Alvarez, Luis Torrens, first base, Cody Bellinger, second base, Luis Angel Acuna, shortstop, Corey Seager, third base, Alex Bregman. Your starting outfield is Brandon Nimmo, Tyrone Taylor, Juan Soto. Your bench is Brett Baty, Starling Marte, Ronnie Mauricio, and Luis Torrens. Rotation and Dylan Cease, Nolan McLean, Emmett Sheehan, Jack Leiter, Brendan Sproat, with your two swingman starting pitchers / relievers, Clay Holmes, Sean Manaea. Your bullpen, Tyler Rogers, Brooks Raley, Victor Vodvik, AJ Minter, Alexis Diaz. Setup man is going to be Devin Williams. Closer, Edwin Diaz. For my projection, this takes their payroll to about $324 million, which is actually under where they ended last season. So I think it leaves you more flexibility to add someone in season if need be. And we're not trading any of the top prospects. So if you do need to make that Skubal or say Skeens or someone we're not even thinking about becomes available mid-season, you still have the guys to make that trade. Like Jonah Tong is not starting on the major league roster. Now, maybe he comes up at some point. Maybe he's a guy that could be in a trade mid-season, or maybe Sproat is a guy that's in a trade mid-season and you call up Tong, or maybe they trade Jet Williams because really Acuna is really working out, or maybe you trade one of the other guys. Like, we're holding on to most of our prospects in this offseason. So maybe something else could be addressed in season if need be. But anyway, this is my Mets plan. Let me know what you think. Love it, hate it, think I'm crazy. Let me know. Thank you very much. This has been Jer Troiano. Oh shit.